Hello, today we're going to study the law of sines. This is section 11.5. Let's get started. We've been solving triangles in the past. And up until now, we've been solving only right triangles. We've been using SOHCAHTOA to do that with sine, cosine, and tangent, but that only works with right triangles. In this lesson today, we're going to learn how to solve using any triangle. And first, we're going to be introduced to that with the law of sines. You have been memorizing the law of sines in your formula madness so that you have this in your head before we get started. And I want to point out, as I did in previous lessons, that the triangle that we have here, the letters that they pick have relationships. If we have an angle A, we use a uppercase letter, and the opposite side to that is the lowercase letter a. If I have an uppercase letter for this angle, the opposite is a lowercase letter. Uppercase for the angle, lowercase letter for the side. That is how this corresponds with our formula that we have here. You're not going to be able to use the law of sines every time. It really depends on what information is given to you. If you have two angle measures and any side length, you will be able to use the law of sines. That means that if you have an angle, side angle, or two angles and an included side, then you can use the law of sines. But if you had two angles and a non-included side, you could also use the law of sines. If you had two side lengths and a non-included angle. So if you had two of the sides here, these two sides, but the non-included angle, which would include the one that is not touching both of them, you could also use the law of sines. One more thing I would like to point out is that when you use the law of sines, you will only be using two of these. You might not need one of those ratios. You won't be using all three of them at one time. You will only be using two of them at a time. Let's do an example. So this time, I know two angles and a non-included side. I know angle C and side C. So I know I'll be using this. And I know angle A. And I'm looking for BC, which is little a. So I will be using this one. I will not be using the B. So in the place of this sine A over A, I'll have sine 89 over A. And in the place of the sine C over C, I will have sine 30. The sine 30 because that's angle C, and side C is the 8. So I'll have 8. You're going to need your calculator handy. We are going to cross multiply. We're going to multiply these two, and then set them equal to multiplying those two. So we're going to have 8 sine 89. And we're going to set it equal to a sine 30. We want to solve for a, so we got to move the sine 30. So we're going to divide by sine 30. After a little while, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to just jump to this piece, noticing that what we did was we multiplied these two and divided by the one that's left over. So, divided by the one that was the opposite of that A. We multiplied by these two and divided by that one. We're going to put this into our calculator. When you put that into your calculator, make sure that you close the parentheses after that 89 before you hit the divide key for the sine 30. And make sure your mode is in degrees. Pause this video, come back, and check your answer with me. When I did this one, I got 15.99, but the instructions say to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to get 16 as my answer. And I want you to notice that we have a unit here of meters, so we need to put 16. I'm going to put 0.0 because it shows that I round to the tenth, and meters. Let's move on to another one. Let's do number 2. I want you to notice that on number 2, I have an angle, another angle, and I have an included side. So I can use the law of sines. I am looking for BC, and that's little lowercase a, and I have a. But I have 13 here, and I don't have the angle with it, but I could find it because I know that these all add up to be 180. So if I have 180 and I subtract it from the sum of these two, I will know those. So I add these up and subtract from 180. Go ahead and take a little bit of time here to find that answer. Pause this video. I got 43. The reason I needed that was because whenever I'm using the law of sines, I need the angle and the side opposite it. And I already have the side opposite, so I need this angle to go with it. So now I can use the law of sines. I'm going to use the A's and the B's, so I don't need the C part. So for the sine A, I'm going to plug in the sine of the A, which is 52, over the A that I'm looking for. And I'm going to use the sine B, which is 43, and the side opposite that. Now I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply these two, set them equal to this one. But I told you that I was hoping that you could jump to the step. So if you can think about it, you're going to multiply these two and divide the one that's opposite of that A and set it equal to A. I'm going to show you the long way though. I'm going to take these two. That's 13 sine 52 and set it equal to those two, which is A sine 43. Now I'm going to solve for A by dividing sine 43. Those will cancel, and I'm going to put this in my calculator. Again, make sure that you close the parentheses here before you hit the divide key to get the sine 43, and make sure you're in degrees. Pause the video and come back when you've got it and check your answer with me. When I did it on my calculator, I got 15.02. We're going to round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to have 15.0. But remember, I've got some units here of inches I need to include. Don't forget that. All right, let's still do some more. This time I'm going to find an angle instead of a side. And I have B and side B here. That means that if I'm going to use the law of sines, I need the 25, what's its opposite, and sure enough, that's what I'm going to find anyway, so that's good. I'm looking for angle A with its opposite, so that works out great for us to use the law of sines. That means I'm not going to use anything to do with B. So in the place of that sine A, I'm going to put sine A over its side of 25. And I'm going to do the B, sine 76, over the 37. and I'm going to solve. I want this one to be all by itself. So if you remember, that fast way was to multiply the diagonal you can and divide by what's left. But I'm going to show you the long way. We're going to do this one. 25 sine 76 over 37 sine A. We're going to divide by the 37. These will reduce, but I need this in my calculator, but I also, when I'm done, need to take the inverse sine of it. So you can do that in 2 steps or 1. I'm going to show it as 2 steps on my calculator. I'm going to actually do this and then do the second sine of the answer to find that. So pause this video, do it on your calculator, and come back. All right, this is what I did on my calculator, but I want to break this down for you so you understand what's going on. Right at this first step, I did the 25 times sine 76 divided by 37, but I'm not done because I'm looking for this. I'm looking for A, not sine A. So to get the A, I have to do the inverse sine. So after I got my answer of the 0.6556, I needed to take the inverse sine. So I used the second sine button to get this sine inverse. But to put my answer in there, I used the second answer key, which is down at the bottom of your calculator on the negative down there. And it put that answer in there. So when I was done, I got 40.9. So my answer is 41 because the 9 rounds that 40 up to 41 because they want us to round to the nearest degree. Our answer, notice we do have inches there, but we're not looking for the side, we're looking for the angle. So our unit is the degrees. Let's do something else. We're going to do some solving of triangles this time. That means we need to find all the missing pieces. We might need to use that law of sines multiple times. We need to find all the angles and all the sides. Right now, I need angle C, I need side B, and I need side A. So let's write that down. Angle C, side A, and side B. I might not be able to do it in this order. I might have to do it in different orders depending on what information is given, but I'm going to write it like this. I think finding angle C is the easiest because they add up to be 180 degrees. So I add these two, and then I take those and subtract them from 180. Go ahead and do that. I got 27. I'm going to write that in right over here. So I have 31 and the A, and I need that to find side A, and I have a 122 and a B, and I'm looking for B, but I'm going to have to know a whole ratio. I'm going to have to know one of them. So I will have the 27 and the 15 are together, and I'm going to need that. So I definitely will need to use that 27. So I'm going to look for the A next. It's in my order. And so I have I'll have sine 27 over 15. We'll go with the sine 31 over the A. And I won't use the B right now. So the sine A over A will be sine 31 over A. And I have to have a full ratio to do this. I can't have two variables. So I'm going to have to use the sine C over C, which will be sine 27 over the 15. I multiply these two and divide that one. So I'll have A equals 15 sine 31 over sine 27. I will put that on my calculator for A. Go ahead and pause it, put it in your calculator. Remember to put your parentheses there before you hit your divide key, and you must be in degrees. All right, when I put it in my calculator, I typed in the 15 sine 31. I closed my parentheses, and then I put in the sine 27 with the divide, and I got 17.01. We're rounding to this to the nearest tenth, so I will have A equals 17.0. And notice that it has a unit over there of yards. Let's move on and do B. To do the B, I will not be using this A section right here. I will be using the sine B over B equals sine C over C. Sine B over B is the sine 122 over B. And sine C we used before is the 27 and the 31. So it'll be sine 27 over 31. I encourage you to use that fast method. We're going to multiply by this and divide by the one that's left. So B will equal 31 sine 122 over sine 27. I'm going to put that in my calculator. I encourage you to do the same. Pause the video, put this into your calculator. Let's do it together. All right, when I put that in my calculator, I put that 31 sine 122. Notice I closed the parentheses there, and I divided it by sine 27, and I got 57.9. We're rounding this to the nearest tenth, and so that 0 keeps that 9 as is, and so we'll have 57.9 for letter B. Our A value is 17.0, and remember we had yards for our answers and degrees for our angles. Here are our answers, and we are finished with this problem. We have solved this triangle by finding all the missing angles and all the missing sides. We have covered the law of sines. The law of sines is a ratio here that you have been memorizing. We use 2 of them at a time. It corresponds with a triangle where we use the angle and its opposite side to find other angles and sides. I hope this has been helpful. Goodbye.